So yes, as officially said, I'm going to be doing a bit of a talk on some soft skills. So I'm going to be talking about 3 points about presenting. Basically, how to speak more gooder, because that's what we're here to do, is speak more gooder. Okay, so the first thing that when you're presenting is you want to understand the tics that you've got, like the things that make you and your presenting styles. For me, I have a couple of tics that you've probably already noticed one now. I tend to speak with my hands. I'm not Italian in background, my wife is, but I was doing this well before I met her. But I have another one. I tend to just stop mid-sentence when there is no need to stop. Because otherwise it just doesn't seem like it's flowing particularly well. And we all have these particular tics. Some people have things where they just crack their knuckles without realizing it, or they'll fiddle with things if they've got something in their hand. But the important thing is understanding that we all have these things that we do, but how do we manage them to make sure that they don't override the message that we're trying to give during a talk? So with overusing my hands while I'm speaking, one of the things that I try and do is have something in my hands. I currently don't, which is kind of why I'm trying to use that to illustrate my point. But also because I know that I do this, I will attempt to make sure that I do it in a way that is not overtly negative to the talk that I'm giving. I will either try and hide them away behind the stand that I'm working from. I might try and have, like I said, something in my hand so that I'm holding that, and then that's the focus of what my hands are doing. Try and have my hands on the device that I'm working from so that the focus for them is not necessarily flailing around completely unhelpfully, but instead being ready to interact with the computer that I might be working on. One thing that I've learned though is don't put your hands in your pockets. As soon as you put your hands in your pockets, you're going to want to take them out again and put them back in. And you do this kind of awkward dance where your hands are going in and out of your pockets, and all of a sudden everyone is like, what the hell is that dude doing with his hands? Why are they in his pockets? Why are they not in his pockets? And if you've got something in your pockets, it gets even worse because you start fiddling with that. You got a phone in your pocket, you might be playing with that. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide now. On the topic of pausing, the fact that I tend to just pause during mid-sentence. And I do this just talking to people, not only when I'm presenting. And most of the time that happens because I'm not fully following what I'm trying to do. So having a script is a really good way to prevent yourself from having this happen during a talk. Because for me at least, this happens because I'll rush through a particular point, and then my brain catches up and realizes that I've actually got to continue on from that train of thought. So by having a script prepared, knowing exactly what I want to talk about, the content that I want to deliver, means that I know where I'm going to be going with this story arc, that I don't have to have a pause while my brain catches up so that I can make sure that I continue on the following sentence. Next thing I want to talk about in presenting is live code. Live code, we're doing technical presentations a lot of the time, so having live code is not really going to be that uncommon. So my first thought when someone says, I'm going to be doing some live coding, is this. So, oh God, this is, oh no, something is about to happen. Do you want me to leave it for like another loop? Because you guys really seem to be enjoying this animated GIF. So, live coding is dangerous. Demos will fail. Keep that in mind when I'm going to do a talk and I'm going to be doing some live coding in that. Be aware that your code will fail. Make sure that you know that that's going to happen and you'll be better prepared. Also, something that I've learned is it's actually really difficult to talk while typing on a keyboard when you're talking about something that is only semi-related to what you're typing. Typing out a class in .NET, but saying at the same time, so I'm going to be creating a class called person, I'm going to give it a couple of methods, but typing public class and then curly brackets and then all the kinds of things that we need to do to make the code structure work, it's really difficult because your brain is trying to focus on making sure that you are speaking correctly to the audience, but at the same time, typing something that is going to compile. So to mitigate the risks when you're doing live code, because realistically, we can't avoid doing code in a technical presentation. People are going to start questioning whether or not it's really a technical presentation if you're never coding, particularly if it's a longer talk, like a 1 hour style talk. But the key thing here that I want you to take away from this slide is that you practice. Have you got that message from this slide? That you need to practice. But the most important thing you probably want to practice is failures. I was doing a talk at alt.net the other day and I switched over to the code, I ran something and it failed immediately. And the thing was, I actually knew when that failure was because I'd run through my code a couple of times. I knew what that failure would be. And the fact that I knew what it was going to be meant I could easily collect myself and go, okay, so yeah, I know what this error is. I'm going to move on from that now because we're going to talk about why that error happened in just a moment. As soon as you stop and you focus on, okay, well, so we've had an error now, I want to focus on fixing that, you've lost contact with the audience. Your eyes are down on your keyboard, you're not engaged with them, and they're going to start having their minds wander. They're going to be trying to work out, they're trying to preempt what you're going to be typing next. They're going to be shouting out ideas of how you could fix your code. All those kinds of things that are just going to become distractions to you as you're trying to present. The other thing that I've learned really early on when I was doing live coding, particularly when I was doing large amounts of code, is write snippets. Don't try and do this stuff from memory. No matter how many times you practice, you're still going to forget something. I've seen presenters on stage that have gone through things 100 times beforehand and just frozen because they've forgotten what they needed to type next. So Visual Studio has snippets. You can always use the Resharper Live templates. There's also snippet concepts in all the other text editors that we're commonly using. Use these. Have your code pre-recorded essentially, so that you can just press tab or press a shortcut key, insert the code that you want to talk about, and don't have that pause while you go down to the keyboard and you start typing and everyone else in the audience is sitting there waiting for you to re-engage with them. Quickly insert the chunk of code that you want to talk about and then talk about what happened on screen. So on line X, we've inserted this particular thing and I want to talk about that concept because the concept is what's interesting. That's what the audience is there to hear. They're not there to see you type away for 5 minutes at a keyboard. The final thing I want to talk about is death by PowerPoint. We've all seen these presentations before, where there are lots of bullet points. People are making you read what's on the slides. And as soon as you start doing that, the audience is no longer listening to what you're saying. They're focused on what's on the slides. They're not really caring. Like you're talking, but you're just reading. So what advantage are you having by being there? You're not really giving them anything. They can easily just read what's on the slides. Also be aware of overusing animations or animated GIFs. I've only used one in this presentation. It was a really awesome one, as we all saw. We all enjoyed it. It's very nice. But make sure that you don't have like every single slide is an animated GIF because, well, that's no better than just using a whole lot of bullet points to try and convey a message. So what you want to do is you really want to keep your slides simple. The points that you've got in your slides are just that. They're just points. You want to be talking about the concepts that they're introducing. You don't want to be making someone have to switch focus from you as the presenter to your slide deck. They can read that and then come back to you as a presenter because you've disengaged the audience. You've lost their attention and they're going to have their mind start wandering. And also keep in mind that the slides themselves don't have to make sense if I just go to your blog or wherever the slides are hosted and just read them. The slides are part of the whole experience. They're there with you and you're presenting and any code samples that you might be giving as well. So they should be telling part of the story. The rest of the story comes from all the other components that are there to make up your overall presentation. So my 3 tips for making a good presentation is know you as the presenter. What are your tics? What are your mannerisms? What makes you different from anyone else that could be up there presenting? Because remember, the audience is there to see what you're talking about. You're the focus of the next 15, 20, or hour, however long your presentation is. So make sure that you understand how you operate and that you're going to be giving the best presentation that you can give. If you're going to be doing code, make sure that your code you have rehearsed. You have snippets. You've pre-recorded anything that you want to do in your technical presentation because the last thing you want is to have an error that you don't know how to fix. You don't want to stop talking to the audience, interacting with them, so that you can go and fix the problem that you've got. Problems happen. We all accept that. Be aware of that. Be ready to move on. Apologize to the audience if you need to, but make sure that you can recover and you can still maintain the confidence that you had at the start of the presentation before an error had happened. And finally, remember that the points on your slides are just that. They're just points. They're not the entire essay. They're not the whole story arc of your presentation. Make sure that you're talking about what's on your slides, not just talking exactly what is on your slides. Thank you.